football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
This week on the podcast, we're going to be doing back to our football and finances conversation that we like to do, Coach. The three-factor model. We're going to kind of tie in what that is with your football analogy and your football world. So I guess the same idea applies in investing, right? You got the level playing field. Is that kind of the genesis of that?
Well, I the way I like to describe it is in football, I'm always looking for an edge. That's what we're trying to get.
Sure.
Each game, we're trying to find an edge. We're trying to find out what is that one little thing that we can do. It doesn't mean I've got bigger, faster guys all the time. It might be this is the way you line up. This is who you got at that spot. And I'm always trying to find an edge. That's why we watch film. That's why we spend a lot of time on, figuring out where those little added opportunities will exist. Well, in investing, we have the opportunity to find that little small hidden extra edge. And really, it's that's the
three-factor model,
prize-winning research. It's right out there in the three-factor model. But it's funny because most people just ignore this, and again, it's right out there. It's given to us from the Nobel Prize winners with Eugene Fama and Kenneth French, Harry Markowitz. There's all this information out there, and I always look at, hey, that's an edge. So when I try and explain to new clients how we invest, it's not trying to stock pick or trying to fix this or that. The hidden edge really is through the three-factor model. We'll discuss that today and what that entails and how actually very simple it is, but how hard it is to actually stick with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's three drivers of stock returns, right? Three levers you can pull, so to speak. So we'll kind of use that analogy. We'll jump back and forth a little bit. So I'll set you up. Let's go with market risk, right? So the beta, just being in the game, right, is kind of like you got to be there. You got to play to win.
Correct. So one of the very first step for the three-factor model is that stocks have historically outperformed bonds. I know that seems like so obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people just don't realize that, they want the safe investment over here, which would be bonds or cash or whatever. But stocks, the reason why we use them is because they have outperformed bonds to the tune of about 6% historically over the last, and I'm just going to round it, we'll call it 100 years or so. So it has outperformed. So does that mean we go 100% in stocks? No. But we do want to have a portion of your portfolio in stocks because you have a 6%, and I call it a premium. You have a 6% premium. And if that's a little edge you can get, you need to have that in your portfolio, whatever that amount may be. If you're still somebody who's kind of concerned about volatility, you may only have 30 or 40% of your portfolio in stocks, but you got to have something there. You got to have something there to get that little hidden edge in your portfolio to give you just to goose your returns just a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you could do the football analogy. It could be all kinds of things, right? It could be something as simple as, that their star running back has tweaked his hamstring and he's probably not going to play as much, right? So maybe you're now putting extra pressure on the quarterback because he's not back there to pick up the blitz, whatever that might be, right?
Yeah, and really in this case, like you were saying, you got to get in the game. This would be again the difference between just standing on the sidelines, not really doing anything about it at all, and actually just getting in the game and doing something.
Taking the field.
Because,
yeah.
That's really as simple as this can be. Is just actually just playing the game, just getting in and playing the game at whatever level, rather than not playing and forfeiting the game, if you will.
There you go. See, I made it too complicated. Make it even easier. Just get in the game, right? Exactly. Yes. All right. So let's talk about the size factor, right? So I'm a hockey fan. We've talked about that before on the show, and it's off season. My team has made a few changes here and there, like a lot of teams, obviously in the off season. They didn't get a lot bigger. We were hoping they were going to be a little bigger in size, but they didn't quite do that. But let's talk about number 2, which is the size factor. Okay. So back to investing, small versus large companies.
Yes. So historically, again, we're looking back over the last 100 years or so, there's been around a little more than a 2%, 2.5% premium. Small companies have actually outperformed large companies. So if we're going to use a football analogy, that's the scrappy underdog, the one who's, tough. They actually can outperform and beat a team that maybe have bigger kids for whatever reason, because you're tougher and scrappier.
Or you got the team with heart going against a team that's more technical, and sometimes the heart team wins, right?
Yes. So in the case of investing, large companies tend to be large and lumbering, and they're not going to make a lot. There's not a whole lot of growth opportunities at this point. Small companies, they have nowhere to go but up. So that's why small companies have traditionally outperformed. Now, small companies will be more volatile because small companies, there's a greater risk that they'll fail. But there's a greater reward, though, on the upside as well for the companies that don't fail. So small companies historically have outperformed. And again, we're looking for premiums wherever we can find them. And again, Eugene Fama and Kenneth French did a lot of analysis on this 30 years ago. And the premium is something that we don't go all small company. Right. We have to have a portion of our portfolio in the small companies, again, just to get a little hidden edge, to goose our returns just a little bit so that we can get, again, a longer term, better performance in our portfolio.
Well, Coach, we talk about that ad nauseum, right? Because that's the whole point of proper diversification. You know, it's just another piece of that, right? Somebody comes in, they sit down for a consultation the first time, they say, hey, John, check this out. I went over the last couple of years and I've bought 6 different mutual funds from 6 different companies. I'm diversified, right? And you're like, okay, let's take a look. And you go looking and they're almost all large cap. You know, so therefore you're not really diversified, right? So to that point, you got to have some of these different pieces in there, like small emerging markets, so on and so forth.
Correct. Okay.
So
yeah, even in international, you want to have some international small. We do want international large as well. We like the stability of that, but we do want to have, again, a little bit extra with the small companies, either domestic or international, just again, to give us a little bit of a hidden edge there.
Okay. So the third factor is the value factor. So if it was market risk, then it was size factor. Third factor is value factor. So talk to me about that.
So those are companies that are basically, when we talk about they're undervalued, the way I like to explain it is if you took the company apart, you tore the company apart and you sold their assets, the assets would be worth more than what the stock price is trading at right now. Now that's an oversimplification, but that's generally what's going on here is for whatever reason, the company is undervalued. Nowadays, with our mathematical modules, we can really figure that out pretty easily. What's going on? Just the everything's public, so we know what their assets are, and we know what the price of the stock is. There are a lot of reasons why companies can be undervalued. Sometimes they're just out of favor for whatever reason. They're out of favor because they're in the wrong market. Maybe their CEO has been in the news. Whatever it could be. There's a lot of reasons for it. I again look at this like maybe a scrappy underdog or somebody who's just has a lot of grit and nobody really paid attention to it. On the football team, I remember having a kid just last year. He didn't really look athletic. He kind of had long hair, didn't really look like he was, and his facial expression, he didn't have much facial expression. Put him out on the football field and he hit people hard. Nice. He was very calm, and he wasn't really making a big deal.
He was a chill guy, but he liked to let it loose on the field. He
just smacked people. So he was a guy that was definitely undervalued because, again, he didn't have great size and doesn't really have a lot of personality, but he loved the game of football. But the same thing happens in our portfolios. Historically, these value companies, these undervalued companies have outperformed what we call growth companies. They have, again, a premium of around 2.5% over the last 100 years. We don't want to have all value companies, but again, we want to have a portion of our portfolio in value companies, both international and U.S. We want to have some value, again, just to goose the returns just enough. And what's ironic about all this, even though value companies may have more volatility and small companies may have more volatility, stocks have more volatility than bonds, when you put it all together scientifically and you engineer your portfolio properly, believe it or not, your volatility actually goes down, not up, when you have the right mix of assets. So it's very important that you do this prudently and you do it scientifically. And that's what we do with our portfolios. We engineer them so that we get the highest possible returns, the lowest possible volatility, and we follow these factors to make sure that the greatest possibility of client success.
So why it matters, right? I mean, you kind of just touched on that, but why it matters for investors is, again, that 3-factor model, just, again, having the proper strategy for each individual person. It's not stock picking, as you said earlier. It's portfolio building.
Correct. So we still believe in using index funds. Index funds mean instead of trying to pick those 3 companies that we hope and pray are going to be the right ones, we actually, or looking for the needle in the haystack is always the best analogy. Why don't we just own the whole haystack? That's the easiest way to do it. Instead of trying to pick the needle in the haystack, we're going to own the whole darn haystack. And so we have, for the S&P, instead of trying to pick 3 or 4 companies, we own 500. Or for the Russell 2000, the small companies, instead of trying to pick, that's the company that's going to do well in the future, or that's the company that's going to do well in the future, how about we buy all of them? We just have, okay, as an aggregate out of these 2,000 companies, this is what their historical returns have been. That's no guarantee of future returns. We know that.
Right,
But historically, this is what it's done. And again, historically, this aggregate has outperformed the growth aggregate in the long run. So we are looking for, again, just little areas where you can find a little hidden edge. And the best way to do that, instead of trying to stock, pick, and hope, I think it's impossible to really get a hidden edge that way. We just own the whole basket. And that's the way we, again, gain that edge.
There you go. Very good. Well, so there you go, right? So whether you're on the football field or you're building a retirement plan, it pays to understand the factors and lead to consistency. I mean, think about some of the greatest teams of all time, right? Even the ones that weren't flashy, they were consistent. I mean, I was never a big fan, but say what you will about the Patriots, but for a long time, they weren't flashy at all, right? But they won. They changed their dynamic through the years, but early on, it was just a consistency there and being defensively minded. So you can't control the market, Coach, but you can control your strategy.
Yes, you can control your strategy. And there is also, and this is kind of relates to football as well, you have to have discipline to stick to it. Because even though we have these strategies in place, that doesn't mean they go lockstep in place every year perfectly. This is something that takes 7 to 10 years. I was actually at a seminar live one time where Eugene Fama, who's one of the authors of the 3-factor model, was speaking, and he asked, it was a room full of an advisor, and he goes, how many years do you think it takes to find a trend? And an advisor said 3 years, another advisor said 8 to 10 years. Eugene Fama said it takes 75 years to detect a trend, statistically speaking. So it takes a long time. So this is why when people get very impatient with their portfolio after 3 or 4 years, or more likely 3 or 4 months,
Right.
There is no trend there. This is a long-term strategy. The numbers have played out over time. We know the numbers over time, and which is why we have to stick to the strategy and have some discipline and patience, which is really hard to do, especially for a football coach. If you're losing the game, you may even have a loss or two on your schedule, knowing that you're trying to do the right thing to win the championship. You got to stick to it and fight through that sometimes.
Yeah, I think, when we think trends, we're not talking about dance trends or TikTok trends or things of that nature. We're talking about financial trends. They take a little longer sometimes at least they used to anyway. We'll see how this modern world, statistically speaking, yeah. All right, folks. Well, if you need some help, as always, make sure you reach out to Coach. We've had links in the show descriptions. We have stuff popping up on the screen as well. Go to bookachatwithjohn.net. Excuse me, that's bookachatwithjohn.net to get yourself onto the calendar. Or again, just check the show descriptions for links to reach out to Coach and get started today with a consultation for yourself. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and of course here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, and notification bell so you catch new episodes when they come out. It certainly supports the channel, helps us out, and also good sorts of good stuff good to happen. You get more new episodes, and maybe you learn something new like the 3-factor model. So we'll see you next time, Coach. Thanks for breaking it down.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Always appreciate it. Hey, if you're interested in checking out Coach's books, check this out before we go. We'll see you next time. John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by rescuemyretirement.net. That's rescuemyretirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's rescuemyretirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License number 0685203.